Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because I have a hard time sleeping at night. So what is the stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients helps support better sleep quality and recovery. It's one thing you can do every single day and costs you less than $3 a day. So it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
You heard the rest. Now here's the best. Stay Tuned Sports Podcast.
And hello there, all you Stay Tuners. Welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports. It's your good friend Jimbo here, back after a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Hope everybody is safe, has all their digits. Hopefully you were responsible with the drinking and the fireworks. I didn't shoot any fireworks off this year. Saw how my puppy reacted last year, so I came home and stayed with him to make sure he wasn't going berserk. But the wife and the son went to the local park that shoots off fireworks, and they had a blast there. So hopefully you guys did too. Lots to talk about today. And even a breaking story as we came on to record. Baker Mayfield officially a Carolina Panther after pretty much months of Carolina being linked to them trading for Baker. Lately it was the Seattle Seahawks, but that came out yesterday that Seattle was really never that interested in him. It sounded more like they were kicking the tires on him, but before we get into that story, though, head over to staytunesports.net so you can follow all of our social media accounts, especially Twitter and Facebook. That's where we share out the link for the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series Friday nights, which we are back this Friday. We're at Dover. I can talk a little bit about that. Our merch tab is up top there. We have a couple new things at our little merch store, so if you guys want to purchase anything and show your support to the show, and if you want to go to a different route to show your support, head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/stsports and buy me a beer. I drink coffee during the week, but on the weekends I drink beer, so buy me a beer. And I kind of forgot to remind everyone the past couple weeks, but we still do have our Stay Tuned Sports chat hotline, 612 STS chat. Call in, tell me how you think about the show, or if there's a topic you want me to talk about. I'll have no problem talking about it. I mean, if you've seen our last live show from a couple weeks ago, some of the questions that the wife asked, a little controversial. I know that definitely one was a very, very controversial topic over the past couple weeks, but I have no problem answering it. We give my opinion, whether it's right, wrong, or you just don't agree with it. But yeah, getting back to this whole Baker Mayfield thing, the Browns are getting a 5th round conditional pick, which can be a 4th round depending on playing time. You look at the team, like, first off, I don't know why the Browns are trading him. If I was the Browns, I would have did everything in my power to try to reconcile the relationship. The way it's looking is Deshaun Watson, at a minimum, is going to be gone for at least 6 to 8 games. I think he'll be getting off very easily if that's the case. I think he should get what the NFL is suggesting, which is the 1-year suspension. And with a young and up-and-coming offense, and I don't really like Baker, but he's not the worst quarterback. He's a lot better than Johnny Manziel. But you're finally putting pieces around him when he didn't have the pieces. Like, I just don't think he's getting a chance, in Cleveland. I mean, kudos for him to basically force. I don't want to say force, because that sounds like he was being a prima donna. I mean, Cleveland just shitted on him all this whole time. So, why would you want to go back to Cleveland? But now he goes to Carolina. One of the top 3 elite running backs is on that team, Christian McCaffrey, if he can stay healthy. He's a very, very good running back, but that's always been his problem since he's been to the NFL, is can't stay healthy. Very good receiving core. Defensively, I mean, it's not the Carolina defense from the Luke Kuechly, years, but still decent. Does he help them get to the playoffs? No. It's a slight upgrade over Sam Darnold. And even with him, this pretty much seals the deal of him ever being a starter again. He's just going to be another Geno Smith that could start 1 or 2 good games and then just be, backup duty. He's going to be a journeyman. I mean, again, he's not a bad quarterback. He's not starting, face of the franchise quarterback. He would be a good bridge quarterback. If you look at like the Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance situation. If Garoppolo wasn't there, Lance probably would have been starting and may not have worked out that well. I mean, he did play a couple games and wasn't the best. Some of these quarterbacks need to have some time to get adjusted to the NFL and the speed. And that would be a good quarterback. I mean, let's not forget, he was seeing ghosts out there. So, I mean, he'd be the perfect quarterback to kind of mentor some of these young quarterbacks. What happens to him now? We don't know. If Carolina was smart, I mean, other than Sam Darnold and Baker, I'm not sure who their other quarterbacks are. I know they don't have Tom Brady, or they don't have a starting quarterback. So it'd be smart to at least keep Sam on the team. If Baker struggles, if Baker gets hurt, Sam could come in and be decent at that. So definitely Baker Mayfield won this little scuffle between him and Cleveland. Cleveland only get a 5th round pick after drafting Baker in the 1st round. I think it's going to stay a 5th round pick. I don't think whatever the percentage or whatever the stipulation is as far as playing time, I don't think Baker's going to hit it no matter what. So even the financials, Cleveland still has to pay half the contract. So they're still gonna be, they're basically going to be doing what Philly did with Carson. A lot of dead money there, and just a bonehead move by the Browns. Past Sunday was the USFL championship game, and I'll tell you what, I haven't watched any of the USFL games since I would say half, maybe right around half the half year mark. I pretty much stopped watching them. I was not like, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I was, I'm used to not having football around at that time, or hockey was on, with the playoffs, so I was more interested in that. And also, me rooting for my Philadelphia Stars, they weren't really putting on like awesome games. So, it was hard for me to stay focused, but I was surprised to see they were in the championship game. It was them and Birmingham. And I was like, you know what? All right, I'll give it a chance. I'll watch it, see what happens. And it also was the first game I seen a semi-filled stadium. Now it turns out that they played at the Pro Football Hall of Fame stadium, so you had a lot of tourists, a lot of visitors there. Curious how it would have turned out if it was down in Birmingham or wherever they played. But watching the game, I watched the first quarter. I watched the first half, and then I went outside to do some yard work. But the first half, it was a good game. It was back and forth. Stopped watching at halftime, and then our good buddy King texted me because I asked him if he was watching or not. Said, this is a hell of a game. I said, what are you talking about? I mean, Philly was, at the time that I stopped watching, Philly was down by like 10 points or 5 points. So I was like, oh, okay, typical Philly team, get to the championship, choke it away. And he's like, no, Philly's up by 2 points, 23-21, I think it was at that time, in the third quarter. I was like, oh, okay. Put it back on. So I watched the rest of the game, and I'll tell you what, it was a very entertaining game. I mean, it went right down to the line. Philly went for an onside kick, which I'm going to talk about in a second here, to try to get the ball back. Only to throw a game-sealing interception for a touchdown. That's when I turned it off. I think there was like a minute left in the game. But this sparked a little interest in me that I probably wouldn't mind seeing a second season just in case the XFL is terrible. At least we'll have something to go look forward to. And I'm curious to see, too, as a league, USFL, do they put on a better product next year? Going up against the XFL. They knew the XFL wouldn't be starting until next year. So they actually had all these players sign 2-year contracts to try to get them away from the XFL, even though the XFL is probably going to offer a lot more as far as salary and health benefits and things like that. The only downfall that I could see being for USFL is, okay, yes, it's good when you got it on NBC, the Peacock network, but when you start putting it on USA Network, that's when I stopped watching it, because I don't got USA Network, and I'm not going to pay just for these games. Whereas XFL, they're on Fox. That's, FS1, the regular Fox channel that NFL's on. So you could still get it through antennas if you don't have DirecTV or cable or anything like that. I think that's the only downfall they'll have. But the future is, I think, looking a little bit better than it did earlier in the year. Now, speaking of the onside kick, or the onside kick, I should say the onside attempt, because they didn't kick. The USFL has one rule when it comes to onside kicks, the onside kick alternative, which is they could go for a 4th and 12 on their own 33-yard line, and if they convert it, they retain the ball. I actually have 3 things here that I think NFL should really look into, and the onside kick alternative is definitely one. They're trying to be a little bit more safer on the kickoffs, and what better way than this? Yes, the onside kick is a drama-filled play, but why wouldn't a 4th and 12 play to retain the ball not cause drama? Let's not forget Donovan McNabb and Freddie Mitchell. 4th down and forever. Scramble around for 17 seconds or whatever it was. Broken tackles left and right. That was filled with drama. That's what this play would be. This is definitely a situation that the NFL should look into it. And they've done it in the past. They've done it with the 2-point conversions. They've done it with the instant replays when the USFL was around, the first time around. So there's nothing wrong with that. My next one here that the USFL has, I really like. And I really think the NFL should do it, because some of the NFL games now are starting to get up to that 3.5, 4 hour mark and could get a little boring. Have a running clock. The USFL has a running clock in the first and the third quarters, and it continues to run after incomplete passes. The thinking here was to keep it, this would help keep the games under 3 hours, which for the most part it did. Other than the championship game here, for the most part it did. So it did its job. I think that would be another positive for the NFL to look into. And then this one right here, I've been bitching for years. It started a lot of arguments between me and King, and that's the pass interference penalty. I don't think it's right that defensive pass interference is a spot foul, whereas offensive pass interference is a 15-yard penalty and a loss of down. Both should have the same amount of yardage penalty, and that's what the USFL does. Theirs is a 15-yard penalty, and the reason behind this is how many games have you guys seen in the past 5-10 years that were decided by a controversial defensive pass interference? Kind of had a brain fart. It's been a long day. A defensive pass interference call. There's been a lot. So I think this would be another one that the NFL should look into. I think they did try to pass this a couple years ago and really never got any footing, and then it just kind of fell to the wayside. But this is definitely one I think they should do. I think all three of these are real good upgrades, or however you want to say it, for the NFL to try out. Even just try them out in the preseason. See how it goes. One of the bigger stories that happened this past week was USC and UCLA announcing they are joining the Big Ten next year. This is huge because they were basically the biggest schools, the face of Pac-12 conference. And with this move, I think it pretty much kills the Pac-12. They're going to be dropped down to basically a community college type division. No playoff team. No team in that conference will be considered playoffs or taken seriously to be put into the playoffs. And before I get into my conversation about Notre Dame with this move, I mean, this is a smart move for USC and UCLA. It's a bigger conference than the Big 12. They get more TV exposure, bigger, networks, and it's a more competitive conference. It also helps out with the recruiting. Now, instead of being a strength strictly on the West Coast, now they'll have a little bit of a pull on the East Coast for some of these recruits, which will help with the competitiveness. I don't think these two teams will be dominant or very good for a couple years. I think they may be mediocre. But this is a smart move for them. But now this also begs the question, is this the time Notre Dame should or does make the move to a conference? Right now they like their being in the independent league conference, but if I was Notre Dame, time's now. You're not going to lose money. If anything, you may gain some money because, when you look at that conference, you still will have your USC rivalry, but they should be put in the East Conference or East Division, Penn State's there. You know, Notre Dame and Penn State fans have been clamoring to revisit the Penn State Notre Dame games. And this would make buku dollars for both schools and the conference as well. I mean, TV ratings will be through the roof for this game. You put this game on a Saturday night on ABC. I mean, money over money over money. And just like USC and UCLA, it's better competition. You know, just looking at the East Division, there's 4 good schools in there. You got Ohio State there, you got Michigan, Penn State. So your strength of schedule gets even stronger. And voters will start taking you seriously now. You'll be fighting for a championship, a conference championship, which has been everybody's bitch for the longest time about Notre Dame. So why not do it? And do it now before there's other schools that leapfrog you into there. Because there's only so many schools that Big Ten will take in. They did say that, you know, they would like to add a few more schools to the conference. But get in there before you get left out. I mean, as much as I like the USC and Notre Dame rivalry, I would love to see the Penn State and Notre Dame rivalry again. I think that'd get real chippy. The history's there. You know, Lou Holtz, that history. And then you got a young coach like Marcus Freeman coming in all fired up. That will be one of the top 10 games ever to be played in college football. Past weekend, I should say, past Saturday, UFC 276, I believe it was this past week. Did you guys catch that yet? Past week? I don't know. Like I said, it's been a long day. Looking at the card, it was a stacked card. You know, up and down it. Even down to the prelims. Open up the card. The main event was Sean O'Malley versus Munoz. Got called a no contest because of a incidental eye poke. The only question I have is, why was Sean O'Malley dancing around like he won? It was a no contest, so you didn't win, you didn't lose. You were winning the fight, in my opinion. And for people that say, oh, you know, Munoz was looking for a way out, he didn't take the full 5 minutes. A fighter knows their body. When he knows he can't see out of his eye, and it turned out there was scratches on his retina or whatever, and his eye was completely swollen shut the next day. So you can't fake that. But if I was UFC, I would try to redo that fight if Munoz could recover in time, because that was starting to be a good fight. It wasn't a one-sided one-sided fight for Sean O'Malley. Munoz was landing some good leg kicks, which worries me sometimes because of O'Malley's injury history. And then I don't know if you guys saw afterwards in the backstage when O'Malley was getting interviewed, Henry Hujo was chirping at him about a tune-up fight, him versus O'Malley. That would be a perfect fight for both fighters. O'Malley needs a big name to get that final push to take him seriously. And if he could beat Henry Hujo, he can't get much bigger than that for that division. As far as Henry Hujo, it would be a perfect tune-up fight for him, because O'Malley is not a championship fighter just yet. He's right there, so he's close to that competition. So why not make it? And then the trash talk, the trash talk would be awesome. A little downer, Cowboy Cerrone retired. Ended up getting tapped out by Jim Miller. you could tell Cowboy has his mind made up going into that fight. You know, he didn't want to be there. And, you know, kudos to him for a very long career. 55 fights, I think they said he had. Most fights in the UFC. Just awesome. You know, and I was sad to see him go, but hey, he said he's going to be an actor now. He has that movie out with Gina Carano. I think it's on Amazon Prime. It's kind of like a Western type movie, so I'm going to have to check that movie out. Max Holloway fight. A lot of things were shown in this fight. It's shown that Volk is just getting better and better and better. Volkanovski, he just got Max's number. But what else is there for Volkanovski to stay around and fight? I think it's time for him to move up. Maybe Max stays. I think Max should do the opposite of whatever Volkanovski does. And Max only has a year or two left. He's like 4-7, I think he's like 4-7 in his last few fights, or 3-4 in his last 7 fights. That's not a championship fighter. That is a just breaking top 10 type fighter. And I'm not saying he's shit. I mean, he's still good. But if you watch his past couple fights, he used to be known as someone that was never touched. And his past couple fights, he's been getting cut up. Granted, the past 2 fights against Volkanovski were just bad for him. Even though I think he won, me personally, I thought he won the second fight. I mean, it was a war, but I think Holloway should do the opposite of whatever Volkanovski does, whether he stays in the division or moves up. Max only has a year or two before you really see him start turning into Cowboy Cerrone. If Conor McGregor ever does come back, maybe that's the fight to make. You know, like I just said about Sean O'Malley and Henry Hujo. It's a good tune-up fight for Conor, because you're still fighting a former champion, because I can't even say he's championship caliber anymore. But he's still a talented fighter, and this would be a rematch. So there's a lot of storylines there. I know Israel Adesanya is getting a lot of shit once again for his main event, and even I was drinking and everything during the fights and everything, so I wrote some notes down and I put main event sucked. You know, when you walk out to the Undertaker's music with the Taker's hat, with the Taker's urn, you better put a show on. And that was the highlight of the main event, was him walking out like that, because once again, it was a boring fight. But you know what? Kudos to him, because I was thinking about today, he's smart. Do the less amount of work, point to win, keep the belt, keep the raise. Because if you guys look at some of these salaries of even the co-main event people, probably only making 150, 200,000. You look at Adesanya, I bet you any money once it comes out, he made close to $500,000 because he's a champ. If he loses that belt, he's going to drop back down. Now, if I was the UFC, and I hope they keep their word that Alex Pereira is the number 1 contender, one of two things are going to happen. Either Pereira's going to be the new champion, or this is going to be the final award that we needed to see from Adesanya out of the past couple fights. I mean, Pereira just put Sean Strickland into the shadow realm. And Pereira has one win over Adesanya in kickboxing. So I think it's finally going to be a good fight that you'd want to tune in to see if Adesanya really starts to show that he can be the GOAT of that division, which he keeps talking about, but he's not. He's boring. I know Chris Pratt was ripping apart about it. So, I mean, overall, the card was good. It was entertaining. Main card was the main event was probably the only one that was meh to me. I don't know. So, I think that's gonna be it for this week. A couple other things I just thought about too, though. So Friday nights we have the Stay Tuned Sports Podcast Truck Series over on YouTube, 3YTV. Make sure you guys check us out this Friday. Doing another giveaway, just like all season. Make sure you tune in to watch and on lap 150, figure out what position or place I'm in. Head over to the Podbean link for the show, and underneath this episode, comment which place I'm in, and then I'll hit you up with a $25 Amazon gift card. Also, I'm actually going to be racing now too, Wednesday nights. Same thing, 3YTV. It's a super speedway series in the next gen cars. So I got a nice little throwback from Rusty Wallace. Has some flames on it. Thinking there was, well, either I'm going to be on fire passing all these cars or crashing and burning. So definitely will be a fun time to tune in. So make sure you guys check out those nights as well. So till next week, this is your good friend Jimbo, signing out.